Ladies and gentlemen, every one of us has faced moments where we walk into a room, speak to a person, or simply try to connect, and we feel that wall, that coldness, that energy telling us this person doesn't like me. And in those moments, our minds start racing. What did I do wrong? Why don't they respect me? How do I fix this? But here's the truth. Life is not about avoiding those people. It's about learning how to rise above it. Because your value doesn't shrink when someone else refuses to see it. Your confidence doesn't have to crumble because someone else can't handle your light. And the way you respond in those moments, when you're not liked, when you're rejected, when you're judged, that's where your true strength, your real character, and your highest level of growth is revealed. Your worth is not defined by someone else's opinion of you. And yet so many people live every single day as if that is the ultimate truth of their lives. Think about how often you've walked into a room and immediately your mind begins scanning for approval. You look at people's faces, you notice who smiles at you, who ignores you, who whispers when you walk by, and without even realizing it, you assign value to yourself based on those reactions. That is the trap almost every human being falls into because we're wired to want to belong, we're wired to want to be accepted, but belonging and being accepted are not the same thing. Belonging is about being who you are without shrinking. Acceptance is about people deciding whether you're enough in their eyes. And when you build your worth on acceptance, you hand over the keys of your happiness to people who may not even know your story, your struggles, or the heart behind the person you are. The problem is we've been conditioned since childhood to seek validation. A grade on a test tells us if we're smart, a compliment tells us if we're attractive, an invitation tells us if we're wanted, and a rejection convinces us we're less than. But none of these things ever told the whole story. They never captured the full truth of who you are. You are not the grade. You are not the compliment. You are not the rejection. You are the hours of effort nobody saw, the compassion that never got applause, the battles you fought silently, the kindness you gave freely. People will always judge you from the surface because most people only ever see the surface, but your worth has always been rooted much deeper than what their limited perception allows. When someone doesn't like you, the first instinct is to personalize it. You tell yourself, maybe I'm not funny enough, maybe I'm too quiet, maybe I don't fit in with them. And that's exactly where insecurity begins to grow. The truth is, people's opinions are colored by their own past, their own pain, their own perspectives. If someone doesn't like you, it often has less to do with you and more to do with the lenses they're looking through. Maybe they see in you something they wish they had. Maybe your confidence threatens the insecurity they haven't dealt with. Maybe your kindness reminds them of a time they were unkind. Maybe your presence alone holds up a mirror to the places in their life they haven't healed. You cannot control the filters people use to interpret you, and so you cannot make their opinion the measure of your worth. Imagine living your life like a lighthouse. A lighthouse doesn't dim its light because some ships choose not to come to shore. A lighthouse doesn't panic when the waves crash harder than usual. It doesn't question if it's too bright or too tall or too noticeable. It just stands and it shines because that's what it was built to do. You are no different. Your job is not to twist yourself into someone else's idea of lovable, likable, acceptable. Your job is to stand in your truth and shine as you are. The people who need your light will find it. The ones who don't will sail away. And neither outcome changes the fact that you were made to shine. Think about the people in history who changed the world. Every single one of them faced rejection, criticism, and dislike. Martin Luther King Jr. was hated by many in his lifetime, yet his worth wasn't measured by their opinion, it was revealed by his courage. Mother Teresa was judged and doubted, yet her worth wasn't decided by those who mocked her. It was proven by the love she poured out. Even in the smallest examples, like inventors, artists, entrepreneurs. Their ideas were laughed at, their dreams dismissed, their presence rejected. If they had allowed the opinion of others to define their worth, the world would be missing some of its greatest gifts. So why do you think your story is any different? Why do you believe that someone disliking you somehow has the power to erase the value of your presence on this earth? It doesn't, it never has, and it never will. We live in a society that glorifies external approval. Social media has turned likes, followers, and comments into a scoreboard for worth. If people applaud you, you feel like a winner. If they ignore you, you feel invisible. But here's the secret. Validation that comes from the outside will always be unstable because it can be given today and taken tomorrow. The only validation that stands unshaken is the one you give yourself. The moment you decide, my worth is not up for debate, my value is not on clearance, my identity is not a popularity contest, you become untouchable. You stop chasing after people who refuse to see your light, and you start walking confidently in the direction of those who do. Now think about this: when you allow someone's dislike to define your worth, you're giving them power they never earned. You are handing over control of yourself, esteem to people who may not even respect themselves. And isn't that a tragedy? To let your sense of value depend on someone who can't even see their own. The most freeing decision you will ever make is to realize that your value is intrinsic. It was there the day you were born, and it will be there the day you die, no matter what anyone says in between. Whether people love you, hate you, misunderstand you, or ignore you, your worth stays constant. Like gold, it doesn't lose its value because someone thinks it's just a shiny rock. It remains precious regardless of perception. Every time you face someone who doesn't like you, you are given a choice. You can shrink yourself to try and earn their approval, or you can stand tall in your worth and let their opinion pass through you like air. When you choose the second option, something powerful happens. You reclaim your energy. You stop wasting time rehearsing conversations in your head. You stop bending over backwards to prove yourself. You stop doubting your reflection in the mirror. Instead, you focus on the people who do see you, the goals you do have, the purpose you are meant to fulfill. That shift is where confidence grows, not the loud, arrogant confidence that tries to prove something, but the quiet, unshakable confidence that knows its worth. The reality is, not everyone is supposed to like you, and that is a blessing. If everyone liked you, you would lose yourself trying to keep up with their expectations. Dislike refines you. It pushes you to choose authenticity over approval. It teaches you resilience. It builds in you the strength to keep moving even when applause doesn't follow. When someone doesn't like you, let it be a reminder that your value was never in their hands anyway. Because your worth is not defined by someone else's opinion of you. It is defined by the unwavering truth of who you are and what you carry within you. Respond with respect, not reaction, because self-control is your greatest strength. Think about how many times in life we let our emotions run the show. Someone says something sharp and immediately we snap back. Someone disrespects us and instantly our pride rises up to defend itself. Someone criticizes us and without even thinking, we launch into arguments, explanations, or sarcasm. It feels good in the moment because reaction is fast, it's easy, it's fueled by adrenaline. But here's the problem with living life in reaction: you become a puppet to other people's strings. The moment you let someone else's attitude decide your response, you've handed over control of your peace. That's why self-control isn't weakness, it's power. The person who can hold their ground, who can breathe before responding, who can choose respect when disrespected, that's the person who holds real influence. You see, people expect you to react. That's the trap. When they push your buttons, they're looking for the explosion. When they insult you, they're hoping for the argument. When they don't like you, they're trying to pull you down into their level of negativity. And the moment you react, they win because you've proven you're controlled by them. But when you respond with respect, when you keep your composure, when you refuse to be dragged into the mud, you shift the entire power dynamic. Suddenly, they don't control you anymore because you're no longer dancing to their tune. You're operating on a higher level. That's where your strength shines, not in clapping back, not in shouting louder, but in standing taller with dignity. Think about the greatest leaders, the ones people follow not out of fear, but out of respect. They aren't the ones who lose their temper every time someone crosses them. They're the ones who stay steady, who keep calm under pressure, who choose their words carefully even in conflict. Because respect commands attention in a way reaction never will. Reaction only creates more chaos, but respect builds credibility. When you respond with respect, you're not doing it because the other person deserves it. You're doing it because you refuse to lose control of yourself. That's the shift. Self-control is never about the other person. It's always about you. The truth is, anybody can react. A child can react. An angry stranger can react. An insecure person can react. It doesn't take maturity to lash out. It doesn't take wisdom to yell back. It doesn't take strength to insult someone who insulted you first. But it takes real discipline, real focus, and real confidence to pause, to breathe, to weigh your words before you let them leave your mouth. And when you can do that, you separate yourself from the crowd. You rise above the average. You become the person people remember not for your outbursts, but for your composure. And isn't that the kind of influence worth having? The influence that says, I won't let negativity change me. I won't let disrespect define me. I won't let anger own me. Now, let's be real. It's not easy. When you feel attacked, every part of your body wants to defend itself. Your mind is racing with comebacks. Your emotions are screaming for release. Your pride is demanding you prove yourself. That's when you have to remind yourself control is strength. Reaction is giving them power, but response is keeping your power. When you choose respect, you're not saying what they did is okay. You're saying I refuse to let your behavior dictate mine. That's maturity. That's growth. That's strength most people will never understand because they're still trapped in the cycle of reaction. There's another truth here. When you react, you're usually making the situation worse, not better. You say things you regret. You burn bridges you might need later. You create wounds that take years to heal. Reaction gives temporary satisfaction, but lasting consequences. But when you respond with respect, you de-escalate conflict. You keep doors open. You maintain your peace. And in the long run, you win. The world doesn't remember who shouted the loudest. It remembers who stood firm when others lost control. Think of respect as a shield. People may throw insults, disrespect, gossip, lies. It's going to happen because not everyone is going to like you. But when you carry the shield of respect, those things don't pierce you. They bounce off because you're not lowering yourself to fight every battle. Not every argument deserves your energy. Not every insult deserves your attention. Not every critic deserves your time. Self-control is knowing where your energy is best invested. And more often than not, your energy is better spent building your future than fighting your critics. When you respond with respect, something else happens. You disarm people. They expect hostility, but they get calmness. They expect defensiveness, but they get composure. They expect disrespect, but they get dignity. And that shift often makes them question themselves more than if you had shouted back. Because respect has a way of holding up a mirror. It shows people the difference between their behavior and yours. And often, without you saying a word, they realize who truly holds the higher ground. But let's take it even deeper. Responding with respect isn't just about dealing with other people. It's about mastering yourself. If you can control yourself in the heat of conflict, you can control yourself in the pursuit of your goals. If you can discipline your words, you can discipline your habits. If you can pause before reacting, you can pause before quitting, before doubting, before giving up. Self-control in your interactions trains self-control in your life. And the people who master themselves are the ones who achieve the things everyone else says are impossible. Picture this. Every reaction is a spark. If you throw that spark into gasoline, you've got an explosion. That's what happens when you let anger control you. But if you take that spark and refuse to fan it, the fire dies before it ever begins. That's what self-control does. It keeps small conflicts small, and it keeps you free to focus on the bigger picture of your life instead of wasting your fire on arguments that don't matter. The world is watching how you handle yourself. In the workplace, in your relationships, in your friendships, in every conversation, people are paying attention to how you respond. If you're always quick to react, people see instability. But if you consistently respond with respect, people see reliability. And reliability is what earns trust, and trust is what earns influence. You don't build respect by demanding it from others. You build it by showing it first, even when it's not given back. So here's the challenge. The next time someone doesn't like you, the next time they talk down to you, the next time they dismiss you, pause. Take a breath. Remember your worth isn't at stake here. Remember your power is in your response. Choose respect, not because they earned it, but because you refuse to give away control of yourself. That's what separates people who live life on autopilot from those who live with intention. That's what separates reaction from mastery. That's what separates weakness from strength. Because in the end, respect isn't about them. It's about you keeping your peace, your power, and your purpose intact